Hey guys! Hey, thanks for returning to my channel. I'm Kathy, and today's video I want to share with you 4 books that I read in the month of May. And guys, these were all, shall I say, 5-star books practically? Okay, 4 to 5-star books. I was really blown away that I enjoyed each of these books, so I wanted to share them with you today. You ready? Let's go. Okay, so the first book I wanted to share with you is Wellness, written by Nathan Hill. Guys, this is a fat book. It's, gosh, almost, I think 600 pages plus. It's heavy too. I want to say a couple of pounds. But I really enjoyed reading this book. So we're following a couple who's married and they have a child, and they're running into some marital problems. So the wife is Elizabeth, the husband is Jack, and when we meet them, they're in the process of purchasing their first real home, a condo in Chicago, and they're already experiencing issues. Elizabeth primarily is unhappy in the marriage, and we don't really know why yet until you read more into the book. But at this point, she's okay with having 2 master bedrooms in this new condo, so that if they get a divorce, that they can still cohabitate without it being awkward. She's already thinking about possibly having an open marriage to spice things up. So that's where her mind is at. She's trying to maybe find ways to improve their marriage. Whereas Jack, he just wants to make her happy. He doesn't know what the issue is, and we don't really know either yet. So that's in the story that you'll have to read for yourself. But he's just wanting to make her happy. He starts going to the gym because he thinks, well, maybe it's because I'm a little overweight now. I'm gonna go to the gym. He starts wearing this body tracker, you know, like one of those wristwatch things that like monitors your blood pressure and all that, you know, like those iWatches or Apple Watches. He starts wearing that. And then as the story progresses, it takes you into flashbacks of their childhood growing up, and this is where you really start to see, oh, so this is why she is potentially unhappy, and this is why Jack acts this way. So you learn about Elizabeth's father, who is at times violent and emotionally abusive towards her. And then you also learn about Jack's childhood, where he was, I guess, the unplanned pregnancy for his mother. Those things that they experienced in their past has now come to affect them as adults in their relationship. So there's a quote in the book that I felt kind of encapsulated what Jack and Elizabeth were going through in their marriage. So the scene is Jack is with his sister, in a flashback, and they grew up in Kansas in the open plains, and she's describing to him how the early settlers, they didn't really know what to make of the plains. There really is nothing. It's just open land, flat lands. There's no trees. There's really no landscape. And so this is what she tells him. She says, those explorers were looking for the one thing that didn't grow. And so they didn't notice all the things that did grow. It's an important lesson. If you cling too hard to what you want to see, you miss what's really there. I think that's really poignant. I think in Jack and Elizabeth's relationship, especially Elizabeth, she was looking at all the things that Jack wasn't, rather than seeing all the things that he was to her and how they actually were good together, why they came together in the first place. So I really enjoy this book. I think if you like books about relationships, growth, dealing with your past, this book will really hit the mark for you. Overall, guys, I would give this a 5-star. I highly recommend. Let me know what you think if you have read it, what your thoughts were, if you agree with me. Okay, let's move on to the next book. Okay, so the second book that I wanted to tell you guys about is Hard by a Great Forest. Hopefully you can see that. Hard by a Great Forest, written by Leo Vardiashvili. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So this book is about Saba, who is the main character, his father and his brother Sandro, who flee Georgia due to a civil war. The civil war occurred in 1991, I believe. So they flee to the UK, and unfortunately they weren't able to bring his mother along with them because they didn't have enough money to bring her over, so she stayed behind. So we're following them as they're refugees in the UK, and his father tries so hard to get his mom to escape as well, but unfortunately his father gets taken advantage of, and the person that he trusted to bring his mom over stole all of his money, and so they could never recoup the money and send enough home to bring her over. And so that weighed heavily on the entire family, but especially their father. So 20 years go by, and their father decides to go back to Georgia. I suspect maybe to make peace with the fact that his wife has now died and she could never reunite with the family. So he leaves, and in the meantime, while he's gone, he sends cryptic messages to his sons saying, "Don't follow me, I'm in trouble." So of course they're concerned, and they also go to Georgia to search for him. And then that's really where the story begins. So we follow Saba in his search for his father. So he's following clues, and he meets interesting people along the way, new people that he's never met, and also people from his past. He is back in his hometown, and he sees with his own eyes the effects of the war. And although his main purpose initially was to find his father in Georgia, ultimately he really discovers himself and his love for his hometown. So it's really a story about self-discovery, themes of loss, war, grief, and again, self-discovery. So I really think that you would enjoy this book if you like historical fiction, if you like a little bit of mystery thrown in there. You'll definitely like this book. Okay, so the third book that I picked up from the library is Husbands by Gramazio. And this story intrigued me because husbands keep popping out of the attic. So we're following a single woman named Lauren, and she's come home from a bachelorette party to find a strange man in her home. She manages in her drunken state to put together that she's married to this man. She's looking on her cell phone and she sees pictures of them together. She sees text messages that they've sent to one another. So that's how she, slowly realizes, I'm married to this guy. And then she realizes, oh, if I send him back into the attic, a new husband will pop out. So this is the general theme of the story, is husbands keep leaving and then coming back, but they're all different men. And so we're following her as she's kind of trying to cope with that. Like, why is this happening? Who can I even talk to about this? Because it's not happening to anyone else, obviously. So she can't really ask her friends, like, hey, is this weird? Why are their husbands coming out of my attic? So we follow her, and she's on certain husbands. She tries to stay in the relationship for a few days just to see how it'll work, but ultimately it doesn't. She finds a reason. It could be because she doesn't like the fact that they chew with their mouth open, or she doesn't like their haircut, or just something weird, or she just doesn't care for a personality trait about them. She'll send them right back up the attic, like, hey, can you go up into the attic? I forgot a box or something. So I think at some point she has fun with, like, okay, if I don't like this guy, I'm just gonna try the next one. So whenever a husband goes back in the attic and she gets a new husband, her life slightly changes. She's still her, but like sometimes she has a different job. Sometimes the people in her life are different. Meaning that her sister, for example, her sister in her real life, her sister is married with 2 children, but in certain realities with different husbands, her sister is not married or doesn't have kids. So it's like little things about her current world that get tweaked a little bit with each new husband. So she has to deal with that, with like, okay, a new husband has come out of the attic. What job am I doing? And are my friends still my friends? So she has to always go through that every single time. And she goes through hundreds of husbands. And then, so you just basically, throughout the story, you're like, gosh, when is it going to end? Why are their husbands coming out of the attic? And I think one shortcoming, or a few shortcomings of this book, is I wish I had known more about Lauren as a character, more about her and what her tastes were. And maybe that's why the husbands kept coming out of the attic, because they were trying to maybe fulfill something about her, maybe in her life, that was missing, but we don't really get that. And then also I just wanted to know why, like, what was prompting this to happen, and would it ever end? So this is a fun read. I really enjoyed it. It only took me like 2 days to finish reading this book. I would say it's like a 4-star for me, simply because I was so invested in the story and I wanted to see how it would end. But like I said, there were some parts of the storyline that I wish were stronger. Like, I wish we knew more about Lauren, her personality, and then also maybe a clue as to why this phenomenon was happening. But otherwise, I would recommend that you read this. I enjoyed it. It was just a good, quick summer read. So my last book, the 4th book that I picked up, is Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda. Guys, this was a total sleeper hit for me. Again, when I went to the library, I just picked it up just to see what it was, and I actually misunderstood the blurb, the summary of the plot. And so when I was reading it, I'm like, I don't remember the summary being this way. Well, I read it wrong, that's why it was that way. So but this book really blew me away, and I can't really put my finger on it. So this book is about 4 competitors in a piano contest set in Japan. And they're all what you and I would consider prodigies, super talented young people. And so we get caught up with them in this competition, and there's 4 rounds. So each round they have to perform a piece on the piano. They're pianists. and you learn a little bit about their history, how they came to the contest, their different personalities. And the author, the way she describes the way that they're playing the music, how it comes across, how it makes people feel, I just got so caught up in that. I almost felt like reading the descriptions of the music that I could hear the music. Now, some background is I do have some musical background. I played the piano when I was a little kid, not for very long. And I also played clarinet through intermediate, high school, and into college. So I would say that I'm musically inclined and I like all things music. So that could be why I was so drawn to this book. I think if you are a musician, if you appreciate music, you would really enjoy this book. Not only are we rooting for the contestants to see how far in the competition they'll go, but then you hear their backstories. One of them, she was a prodigy, but her mom passes away when she's I think 13, so she loses her passion for playing. We also are following another contestant who seems like he's basically good at everything. He's a prodigy at the piano, he plays other instruments, he's attractive, he plays sports, he's like the all-around person that you're like, wow, perfect specimen. And then there's also another contestant who's a little older, who has a lot of self-doubt, like, would I even be considered a prodigy? No one ever considered me a prodigy. Am I good enough to even be in this competition? So it just goes into their mindset, their thoughts about self-worth, and then also but how they appreciate each other's musicality. Like, there was no sense of backstabbing or wanting another person to fail. These characters all could appreciate each other's musical abilities and how their playing really affected them in a positive way. Like, each person's playing affected the other competitors in a way that pushed them. Like, wow, I was so moved by his playing. It really inspired me to do better or to put a different twist on my interpretation of this song. So yeah, I was just really blown away by this book. I was not expecting to enjoy it. You would think the subject is maybe boring, a piano competition, descriptions of music, not the most exciting, but I really enjoyed this book. And so I think like I said, if you are musically inclined or you enjoy classical music or if you played an instrument, I think you would be able to appreciate this story. So again, I highly recommend. This was also a 5-star for me. All right, guys, that's a long video. Hopefully, this is like my first video. My second video. This is my second video, my first real review. So please forgive me if if I need improvement. Leave maybe comments, maybe if there's anything that you could see that I could improve on in my reviews or in my presentation. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think about the books, if you've read them, and if you agree with my assessment, or if you disagree, or you just have thoughts or questions about them. I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, take care. Bye.